on. I just knocked over my camera. I'm picking it on. Sorry about that.
Hi my lovelies! Happy New Year and welcome back to my channel. Man, kids these days, you know, they're always on that damn phone. But you know where I was? Always on that damn computer. Because virtual worlds were my biggest obsession as a kid. I think most 2000s kids can relate because virtual worlds really were all the rage in the 2000s. Like, call me New Girl Gigi Magic Lamp Genie. New Girl Gigi Magic Lamp Genie. But if I could bring any trend back from my childhood for the new generations, it would by far be virtual worlds. Anyway, in 2023, I talked about Moshi Monsters mainly because that's my all-time favorite virtual world. You won't change my mind, so don't even bother trying. However, in the past year specifically, we've seen a lot of changes to Poptropica, and so I thought it'd be an interesting, you know, virtual world to revisit. With that being said, I want to give a huge shout out to the Poptropica Help blog. They were my #1 source, like resource, when I was scripting and researching for this video, and helped me immensely. I mean, not personally, I didn't like message them or anything, but like reading through their blog was very helpful. It helped me get a lot of context, not just in regards to the game and like history, but like the fandom as well. There was a whole fandom going on, you guys don't even know. Anyway, before we get into today's video, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. I don't know about you guys, but finding the right headphones is crucial to me, especially with the new year approaching. Just from 2022 to 2024, I went from Bluetooth headphones, which sounded great but hurt my ears after extended periods of time, to AirPods, but even after using those for I think over a year now, I found my problem still hasn't been solved. So that's why I was so excited when Raycon decided to sponsor today's video at honestly the perfect time. New year, new me, new room, new earbuds. I got mine in the color black because currently my hair is staining everything. Like, when I tell you I'm in a constant battle with the Smurfs, that's what it feels like. But I want to note that Raycon actually has a large variety of color choices you can choose from, as well as a selection of protective cases, which are really pretty. Anyway, you might have noticed that I said new room, and that's because I put my Raycon earbuds to the test when I was doing some redecorating in my room. Because honestly, that's when you need music the most. And the thing is, I'm so used to having to listen to music with one earbud in rather than two, because after a certain amount of period, like not even an hour, it just gets uncomfortable and like almost overstimulating. However, with the Raycon earbuds, I didn't experience this issue at all. It was great. In fact, one of my favorite features is the earbud tap functions, which reduce discomfort while using them. I've also just really missed noise cancellation. Like, I've gotten different over-the-ear headphones since, but I wear a lot of outfits that contain earrings, and then when you put headphones on, it's so uncomfortable. Sometimes you just need a pair of earbuds. At least I do, because noise cancellation is really an essential feature for me. As an autistic person, I primarily use earbuds and or headphones when I'm in public to kind of regulate myself and not get as overstimulated. Raycon's latest model is truly better than ever, with a 32-hour battery life and quick charging function where just 10 minutes of charging yields 90 minutes of battery. As far as headphones and earbuds go, it's also just really hard to find like an affordable option that actually has the sound and quality and functionality that's being promised. Thankfully, they've got you covered. Their prices start at just half of the price as other premium audio brands. And speaking of savings, if you want to try Raycon for yourself, go to buyraycon.com/lulaloopsey to get 15% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get 15% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/lulaloopsey. Thank you so much again to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. And now let's log on to Poptropica. Poptropica is an educational online virtual world created by Pearson Education Inc. with development beginning as early as 2006. Now, without a doubt, if you've watched my channel, you are probably familiar with Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the book series, whether you watched the iconic movies growing up or read every single book there is, because the obsession was just, oh, I got you hooked. But Lula, what does that have to do with Poptropica? Everything, actually. The main person credited for the creation of Poptropica is none other than Jeff Kinney himself, the author of those books. See, Diary of a Wimpy Kid as a concept had began as early as 1998. However, Jeff had been involved with another one of Pearson's websites called Funbrain. And it's here that Diary of a Wimpy Kid technically made its debut to the world in 2004 as an ebook on Funbrain before it was published officially just a few years later. But back to Poptropica, in Jeff's own words, it's what he considers to be his natural career path. Jeff started working for newspapers, then working as a webmaster, which is most likely what led to his work with Pearson Education. This might have been common knowledge to some of you, but compared to other virtual worlds, I was not nearly as obsessed with Poptropica, and even remember finding the concept to be a little bit confusing. Like most Gen Z kids though, I was absolutely obsessed with Diary of a Wimpy Kid, so you should have seen my face when I found this out. Hearing this just makes so much sense to me. Like, I wasn't really that shocked because I feel like you can truly see Jeff's influence just in the art style of the characters in the game alone. Jeff's specific role during the development process of Poptropica was computer programming, writing the code for Poptropica himself, as well as designing, the character models. So it's safe to say that 2007 was a big year for Jeff Kinney, not only with the publishing of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but the launch of Poptropica. They were just like months apart. The official release date is a little bit unclear to me. There are two separate release dates, like if you look online, and I'm personally more inclined to believe that it was on September 20th of 2007, but roughly right around that time either way. The best way to put it is that Diary of a Wimpy Kid came out first, so it came out the second half of the year. According to Jeff himself in an interview with Belly Feel, the idea for Poptropica came to him while he was mowing his lawn in 2006. On the topic of virtual worlds, some of you may be familiar with another one made by Nickelodeon called Nicktropolis, which released right before Poptropica in January of 2007. Well, it turns out that game is the reason the game got its name Poptropica and kind of became the Poptropica we all know and love with the concept of the islands. Originally, the game was set to be titled Poptropolis, but when Nick released their virtual world, Jeff says, and I quote, "We realized it was just too close, so we thought about it for a while and we came up with the idea for Poptropica. And at that time, we were thinking of independent cities or independent rooms, but that shifted us into independent islands, and that's what really worked well for us." So yeah, essentially, we wouldn't have gotten the Poptropica we all know and love if it hadn't been for Nickelodeon. Wow! Maybe like the one good thing they've done unintentionally. I was unfamiliar with Nicktropolis. That was before, it came out when I was around, but like I was a baby. Let's not lie. So if you played it, let me know, like, was it fun? I heard it was very short-lived from the brief research I did on it. Anyway, as for the game itself, according to the Poptropica help blog, which has been around since July of 2008, when the game launched, the yellow blimp hadn't even arrived, and the only island around was early Poptropica. Now, what exactly is an island? Let's get that across. Islands are essentially the plot of Poptropica. The game is primarily a problem-solving type game, so you are put in these quest-like scenarios, aka the islands, and every island centers one problem and has a storyline which you as the player are tasked to solve by doing things like collecting items, taking on obstacles, talking to characters on the island you encounter on your adventures. The only island in 2007, like I said, was early Poptropica, which starts with you falling through a hole that leads to a spider pit. But the concept of early Poptropica is Poptropica's first settlement, so think the Pilgrims. As the player, you're given the task to talk to these 8-bit style pilgrims and figure out what's wrong, and slowly but surely you collect items that are lost in order to receive your prize. For every island you completed, you would receive the in-game currency credits, which could then be used for clothes and other perks, as well as a medallion or certificate type thing. But the following year, in 2008, is when we'd really get a feel for Poptropica, with islands like Sharktooth, Time Tangled, 24 Karat, Superpower, and Spy being released by the end of that year. 2008 is also when we saw the introduction of the customizer tool, and during this era to spice things up, the creators would occasionally release bonus customizables, but they tended to be actual items that would just pop up on your character rather than wearable items you might be more familiar with in the game. But when I say 2008 was a big year, I don't just mean for the game, I mean a community was starting to become established, a fandom if you will, the Poptropica fandom. Every game has one, For starters, the creators blog was created. For starters, the creators blog was established, which was a big deal because it was where you'd get inside updates about the game. Also, like I mentioned earlier, the Poptropica help blog, but it wasn't always known by that name. It used to be, in 2008, a specific player's blog, then 11-year-old Scary Tomatoes. That was the blog, Scary Tomatoes blog. But essentially the blog was the same concept. It was a space to share tips and tricks with other players of the game Poptropica. This was the only Poptropica like fandom space at the time, so it quickly garnered a lot of attention, reaching 1,000 hits by November 2008, which that's a very big deal for this time, okay? And eventually the site would reach 1 million before like the site had even celebrated a 1-year anniversary. If you're wondering where it sits today, I believe it's like 38 million, which is insane. Now, I'm sure if you're familiar with Jeff Kinney and his works, you've at least heard of the Big Nate comics. Well, in February of 2009, with the help of Lincoln Pierce himself, Poptropica would debut a Big Nate Island, after months of sort of teasing fans by posting the Big Nate comics on the creator's blog. The island was fully based on the comics, so like it was in that art style and everything too, which is really cool. And when you'd enter on Main Street, you'd immediately be greeted by Nate himself, but you get to interact with a handful of other characters from the comics as well. Another thing that's notable about 2009 is it's the year that Poptropica, like the store, would officially be launched in the game. Despite me mentioning the currency earlier, I really only did that to help you understand like how the game works, but it was still early on at this point, so this is when the currency came to be. I don't believe it was a thing before 2009 from what I was able to find. Now we've reached the time period where the peak is about to begin, or in the opinion of Mitch Carpata, one of the faces behind Poptropica, the peak was 2010. Starting off strong, 2010 was the year membership debuted on the website, which started offering some minimal perks like early island access, like when new islands would launch, like the members would get to explore first. Reality TV Island also finally launched as well, which had been in the making for at least 2 years, undergoing a lot of delays, so fans were ecstatic. Reality TV Island starts with you visiting Mike's Market and you talk to a man, and then after that interaction he drops a tabloid and it has a reality TV competition application. You end up applying and then a helicopter picks you up the next day. This is such a Wattpad like ass scenario. Then as each day passes from that point on, you get a randomized challenge to compete in against other players on this reality TV show. This is one of the few islands I actually have a huge memory of as someone who wasn't as like avid of a player of Poptropica. My memories are very scattered when it comes to the game, and I have to say the reason I remember this one is 100% because of Total Drama. Same concept, because this is where it obviously originated from. Total Drama didn't come first, but I didn't know that. I just thought Total Drama. It's the same reason that I would later be obsessed with that like Survivor Roblox game, only I had not heard of Survivor, so I just thought it seemed Total Drama adjacent. Girl. Anyway, I don't think you'd play against like actual players in the Poptropica one. There's like a specific list of alphabetized, I can't speak, characters who would be like playing against you, and the challenges would include things like balanced diet, boulder push, coconut catch, geyser guess, hang glider, knockout, mountain race, on the line, pole climb, shot put, shuffleboard, totem hop, turtle shell toss, and water run. But that wasn't the only island we saw this year. No. I just noted that one because I remember it so well. There was also Mythology Island, Skullduggery Island, Steamworks Island, Great Pumpkin Island, and Cryptids Island, although it was for members only at this point. I think it was 2011 when like it was released to the public. But speaking of islands, with the release of Wild West Island in the beginning of 2011, we saw something new introduced for like islands generally, aka pre-island mini quests. The goal of the pre-island mini quests was to like promote the islands or get players more excited before they actually released. Wild West Island was the first of many to have a pre-island mini quest. As an example, the Wild West one was called Round 'em Up, and it was like a game of horse lasso where you could log on each day for a chance to win prizes. March 2011, in my opinion, would be one of the most notable months of this year though when it comes to island releases, because like we did for Big Nate, we finally got to see a Dire Wimpy Kid x Poptropica crossover. And when it comes to islands, the ones I'm the most nostalgic for or remember playing happen to be when they did a crossover with something. Specifically this one, I remember playing this one all the time. But also concepts like this where you're like, it's the same art style and you're like going into the book, like that's so cool just to be able to explore that world. Though I will say, I think like if I had discovered this game at an older age, I would have fucked with it more like some of the other ones, not just like the ones like this that appealed to me, because it's not too educational. It's educational, it's classified as an educational game, but it's not educational in an overbearing way which is like the common theme with educational games. And then that just like makes it not fun and it makes you like not want to play it. But Poptropica was more like educational in a way that comes naturally as you explore and partake in these island adventures. Now, including the two I just mentioned, 2011 saw the release of 7 new islands, which was the most for any year thus far. The islands included Red Dragon Island, Mystery Train Island, Game Show Island, and Ghost Story Island. This might be a shocker because I've definitely seen this suggested in my Google form, but I've never had a Magic Treehouse phase. I remember those books, like they're recognizable. It's not that I don't know what they are, but they kind of bored me as a kid. I have this memory of like, I read maybe 1 or 2 all the way through. I remember like trying to read a lot of them, or I'd be like, oh, this looks interesting. And I think it's because sometimes they felt like an unnecessary history lesson to me. Although I remember reading one about how they traveled back to Rome or something. That one I read all the way through, and I think that's the only one I've read all the way through. If I can find which book, I'll put it on screen. I just have like a very vivid memory of that. But I do remember their island from Poptropica, aka Red Dragon Island. So fun fact, they also partnered with the Magic Treehouse, if you weren't aware. One of my favorite parts of Virtual Worlds is the way they expand outside of their universe. I mean, how else do you think Webkinz got so popular? So naturally, when garnering an invested fanbase, Poptropica had to release a line of collectible toys. There was a large variety to collect, like 3-inch and 6-inch hard figures, but also plush toys and a big inflatable blimp. I think it was a playset. Either way, really cool. And even a Poptropica guidebook was released. Because you know I'm a curious person, let me know in the comments if you had any of the toys or the book. Any Poptropica merchandise in general, I'd love to know, because honestly, I have to be real.
I am tempted to get one of the plushies now, I fear. And why is the Dr. Hair one so expensive?
It feels like it's only expensive because people like aesthetics. Or is this character like really sought out? I wish I would have had time to get something to unbox for this video, but unfortunately I just didn't. Anyway, what's also noteworthy in regards to the success Poptropica had reached is they were listed on Time Magazine's list of 50 websites that make the web great. If you've never heard of Poptropica, chances are you're a grown-up. An inventive mega site for kids with a wholesome and slightly educational bent, features quests, games, and puzzles set on 20 themed islands, including Shrink Ray Island, Wild West Island, and ones based on the Wimpy Kid and Peanuts franchises. As many as 10 million kids explore Poptropica each month, but the site also aims to please parents. The chat feature, for instance, doesn't permit free-form conversation. Instead, members can select questions to ask one another from a collection of family-friendly choices. Now, a part of early internet culture, and what made Virtual Worlds so fun, to me at least, was the personable customization aspect. The internet in the 2000s was very much like that, but for Poptropica, you had outfits and could make friends, but 2012 was when you could finally learn more about your friends, let's just say. You could show off your island medallion stats and your tribe. Tribes were a new feature as well. There were Flying Squid, Wildfire, Yellow Jackets, Pathfinders, Black Flags, Nightcrawlers, Seraphim, and Nanobots. And how it worked was each player could choose their tribe by going to their personal profile in the game, clicking on the friends icon, and then finding the tribes button. The perk of joining any tribe was basically you'd get a jersey with your colors and a symbol on it, and each tribe had their own common rooms to hang out in. This style of personal profiles is the main one that would be on Poptropica. It lasted 7 years until being redesigned in 2019. When it comes to merchandise, Poptropica only continued to expand upon it, releasing 2 novels, a coloring book, Mad Libs. Mad Libs? I've heard that name in a long time. But most exciting of all was the Poptropica Nintendo DS game, aka Poptropica Adventures. Like previous merchandise released, all these things contained exclusive in-game codes as well that could be redeemed for items and or, I'm assuming, other perks in the game. And you should know by now, there was a handful of new islands that also joined the Poptropica universe. 9 of them to be exact, which beats the previous year's record. There was Poptropolis Games Island, SOS Island, Vampire Curse Island, Twisted Thicket Rocket Island, Wimpy Boardwalk Island, Lunar Colony Island, Supervillain Island, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Island, and Zomboree Island. Also, remember the mini games they added? Well, that didn't last long. Or should I say mini quests they added, because they made mini games. Basically, they got replaced by mini games for members only. They put them at the end of the island quests and they made them members only. That's basically what happened instead. Oh, and at the end of 2012, there was quite a tragedy for Poptropicans everywhere, with the Great Earthquake of Poptropolis. And even worse news came in January of 2013 when it was revealed to have succumbed to the sea. However, there was an ominous message left behind for fans when you'd view the island on the map, which stated the following. Legend tells of a mysterious island upon which Poptropica's greatest athletes compete for tribal supremacy. Will the Poptropolis Games ever rise again? Truly, truly beyond devastating if you ask me. Oh my god, like, I'm getting Camp Wawanakwa flashbacks all over again. They must have been taking notes. I see you, Fresh TV. Anyway, we saw many more new additions like Nightwatch Island, Backlot Island, Virus Hunter Island, and Mocktropica Island. I want to specifically highlight Virus Hunter Island because it was a special release. This is due to the island being the first officially sound updated island, which, let's put it this way, it was the beginning of a new era of bigger and better islands in Poptropica. Compared to previous years, there was less islands released in 2013, but trust me, a lot was still going down on Poptropica. For starters, they really wanted to do a official Poptropica Lego set specifically for Dr. Hare's lair, and it was one of those you need a certain amount of votes for consideration of creating it type deals. I'm unsure as to the amount of votes actually received. It needed 10,000 for consideration, but it never unfortunately came to fruition. Then of course we got some more books, which was exciting, specifically some novels based on islands and the Creator Island kit. Along with the release of that specific book, the Creator Island kit, Poptropica also held a contest for players to create their dream island, in which the winner would get their dream island made a reality in the game. And lastly, there was a Poptropica online store opened, and no, I don't mean the one in the game, I mean a clothing store, for humans. You could go and buy a shirt basically, or a hoodie with your avatar on it, so pretty cool. In 2014, we saw the release of 5 new islands on Poptropica: Monster Carnival Island, Survival Island, Mission Atlantis Island, Poptropicon Island, and Arabian Nights, which was the Dream Island contest winner. Now, Monster Carnival, how could I not note Monster Carnival? There is some serious lore here. Monster Carnival was by far the most anticipated because among the Poptropica fandom, it had become a bit of a myth. A legend, infamous if you will, because in the early stages of the customization feature in 2008, some items actually leaked related to Monster Carnival. For the past week, I have been searching for rare and awesome costumes for our costume page, but it was only a few days ago I came across some really weird items. I found them on a fellow Poptropican's website. These weird items were worn by Legolas, as seen on the right. I sent him an email about the items, and here's what he replied. Okay, firstly, these items are all but impossible to get now. There was an item leak in the multiplayer buildings. Someone managed to get their hands on unreleased items that somehow happened to be on the servers. I'm guessing they came from Monster Island, so obviously enough they spread like wildfire, but when the creators finally got around to fixing it, most people lost their items. If you logged on in the following 2 weeks, they were removed. I hadn't logged on in that time, so oddly enough, I got to keep the items. Just by looking at these items, people made the connection between the items and Monster Carnival, because in 2008 when this happened, it actually was on the map, but it said coming soon until eventually it just didn't come. It disappeared with no explanation, one day being replaced by 24 Carat Island instead. So for years, it remained a huge mystery just amongst the Poptropica community of what happened to it? Why didn't we get it? What's going on? Are we ever going to get it? The whole thing was just confusing. A lot of questions were left unanswered. Eventually, 2 years later, monster costumes were released after the leak to sort of remedy this, I guess. That's what some people theorize. And an image was found of an unfinished, island concept, which appeared to be carnival themed. Fans had hope though, especially in 2012 during April Fools when the creators blog would acknowledge the mystery of Monster Carnival Island for the first time, stating the following: "Not since the introduction of the customizer or the removal of the Monster Carnival map icon have we made an update this momentous." The island was also hinted at again in a trailer on their YouTube channel titled Poptropica Friends, but the year 2012 came and went, and no Monster Carnival Island happened. It's also worth noting that Poptropica was known to buy like website domains for some of the islands, which would then redirect to Poptropica when you would like look up the website. Now, I don't know how many specifically they did this with, but Monster Carnival was one of them. Do it yourself, look it up, it still works. And so of course this only further fueled the fire of, we're gonna get Monster Carnival. Then when Mocktropica came out, which was kind of about the Poptropica creative process, it also gave us this Easter egg, which had the name Monster Carnival on this poster crossed out with a little drawing of a monster. And this isn't even everything, like I think I got the point across. They were teasing fans with this. That was until everything came to a head on January 17th of 2014, which is the date that Poptropica officially announced Monster Carnival Island as their next island in a trailer on their YouTube channel, just roughly 6 years since the mystery began amongst the fandom. You're probably thinking to yourself, why? Why was this island so specifically hard to create, I guess? What makes this island different from the rest? Well, on the creator blog, they actually would come clean about the mystery surrounding this island and why it even disappeared to begin with, clearing everything up. Longtime Poptropicans know that the Monster Carnival was supposed to be one of our earliest islands. It was announced in 2008 and even added to the travel map with the message "coming soon," then disappeared without notice. Why? There have been a lot of explanations over the years. Some were closer to the mark than others. Frankly, we'd like to let the conspiracy theories go on because they're more interesting than the truth, but it's time we came clean. Monster Carnival was removed from the Poptropica travel map because it wasn't finished, and everyone was too busy with other projects to give it the attention it needed. That's all. We really just announced it too early, got onto other things, and never came back to it. But as the Monster Carnival continued to live on in the imaginations of our players, we couldn't let it go. What a great name. Every year when we discussed what new islands to make, somebody would say Monster Carnival, and then everyone else would nod. Then we'd pick a bunch of other islands to do instead. Maybe we were intimidated. We all know what happens when something becomes anticipated for too long. Better leave it as an unrealized dream rather than risk not delivering. Well, every dog has his day, and the same is true of a great idea for a Poptropica island. Monster Carnival is very real this time, and we hope it was worth the wait. At the beginning of 2014, there was also a members-only feature called Poptropica Labs, where players could essentially create their own islands. I can't lie, it's a bit confusing to me. I tried to read up on this feature, but I thought it'd be worth to mention anyway. There were also 2 more books released this year, aka Scary Monsters and Wild West. I don't know if it's just me, but I truly had no idea how many books Poptropica released. Like, it's actually really cool. Never have I ever seen a Poptropica book out in the wild. But you know what's a bigger deal to me? This year we got a Poptropica mobile game. The game started out as an iPad exclusive game before being available on iPhones too, and then later that year available for Android users. Despite the current state of Poptropica, which let's not get ahead of ourselves, the game is still available to play for anyone who wants to download and play Poptropica. 2014 wasn't short of tragedies though. Fellow Poptropicans, you may recognize this shark. Shark Boy. Just a boy in a shark costume, but a reoccurring character amongst the game nevertheless since 2007, when Sharktooth Island was released. Very fitting. However, his name was suddenly changed to Shark Guy mid-2014. Did he grow up? And his character was also holding a different item than usual. And naturally, Poptropica players were quick to notice these changes, and when they pointed them out, it seemed like even more changes occurred. Since the beginning of the Daily Pop, which is basically the in-game magazine, there was a picture of Shark Boy holding a pencil, but during this same time period, they changed it from Shark Boy to Dr. Hair. Can you believe this? The list goes on. I mean, the shark costume that was like in stores had the name changed from Shark Boy to plain old shark costume. Or the fact that Shark Boy toys were just removed from stores and the toy page. Or the fact that Shark Boy's posts on the creator blog all had the author changed to Captain Crawfish. In fact, speak of the devil, when promoting Sharktooth Island for Discovery Channel's Shark Week, Captain Crawfish acknowledges the scandal, sort of. The second island we ever released back in 2007 was Sharktooth Island, which featured the massive Booga shark, a helpful medicine man, and one very special boy whose name we no longer recall. Fortunately, in 2015, the official Poptropica account confirmed that the name change came from copyright issues because there's a wrestler with the same name. Like, he already owned the name Shark Boy. But similar to fan theories on the Poptropica help blog, I was more inclined to assume it was because of Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
But also, this was quite a few years later, so I mean, would it really matter at this point? No.
So yeah, it was because of the wrestler Shark Boy. Also, remember the Poptropica DS game? Well, we got another one, aka Forgotten Islands, which was actually it was an iOS game too, available on iOS devices before it got released for the 3DS. When it comes to 2015, the island releases looked a bit different because 2014 introduced us to this episodic format, which allowed for these stories and worlds to continue on for much longer. So for example, in 2015 we got Arabian Nights Episode 2, Lair of Thieves, and I believe there's also a third episode of Arabian Nights, or there's Poptropicon Episode 3, The Reign of Omegon. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, I just realized I didn't mention Episode 2. Other island releases included Mystery Map Island, Timmy Failure Island, Escape from Pelican Rock Island, and Galactic Hot Dog Island. This was also the year that Poptropica Realms was released to the public, which I believe was formerly the members-only Poptropica Labs feature, so we got an upgrade to that. There was also a Poptropica Hall of Fame, an increase in island credits, so you went from earning 50 to 150 per island completion. And we got our first Poptropica graphic novel titled Mystery of the Map, which was released the following year, but it was in 2015 that we learned about it, and I believe there was some kind of sneak peek of a couple pages on the creator's blog, most likely to get fans hyped and excited. Now I'm gonna be honest, it seems like things would only go up from here, but 2016 through 2018 are nowhere near as eventful or full of hope as the previous years we've talked about thus far. Unfortunately, this was really, at least to me, where the beginning of the end began. And 2016 actually began with the longtime blogger Slanted Fish, aka Scary Tomato, writing an open letter to Poptropica about changes in the game, like things in the game that could be changed or that the community noticed. And about a week later, one of the creators actually did respond to this letter, and with her permission, the response was shared on the Poptropica help blog. On behalf of the Poptropica creators, greetings. I love your blog and I read every post. After your recent open letter, I wanted to personally respond and hopefully start a better dialogue with you. First, an introduction. I am Jen McLean, and I joined the Family Education Network as the president of Kids and Games Division in November. More importantly, I'm a lifelong gamer, a Poptropican, and the mom of a Poptropican. It's been a whirlwind few months as a new member of the Poptropica team, and one of my biggest priorities has been understanding where Poptropica needs to improve and helping the team build a roadmap to get us there. So fess up, have you been hiding in our offices? Bugging our conference rooms? You've made some great points about how we need to make Poptropica better, and I'm excited to share that many of the ideas you proposed are already in development. I'm happy to give you a sneak peek at some changes that are coming soon. In the next few weeks, expect a new and improved experience for first-time players, including a brand new island specifically designed for new players. It's a short island, but we're hoping it'll really help new players better understand how to play and what Poptropica is all about. Though its design is for new players, I'm sure veterans will still get a kick out of it too, so not to worry. We also understand and agree that we need to improve upon the island experience for all Poptropicans. We want to make it easier to teleport, find help, understand the quests, and identify the next steps in a quest. We're not ready to share specific times and releases yet, but we will keep you posted as we roll out the improvements. We are also looking at ways we can help make Poptropica membership even more valuable. We'll be updating our membership this spring, so I'm so glad you brought up the I'm trapped in a classic island and can't get out issue. We're working on a fix for that too, so very soon you should be able to leave the classic islands from any scene. Teleporting between scenes is a great idea, but it would end up breaking a lot of the islands. However, it's something we'll keep in mind though as we find ways to make the player experience better. An important part of any game development project is squashing bugs. We need to get better at fixing the bad bugs and incorporating good glitches into the design of the game. As a part of that focus, we'll be starting a friends and family beta program this year, and we will be reaching out to you with more details when we're ready to launch. At this point in time, things may have looked bleak, but little did the Poptropica community know, the following year in 2017, they'd be introduced to Poptropica Worlds, a spin-off of the original Poptropica game that was released in May of 2017, but teased in January of that year. It was first available for Android and then desktop shortly after, and Poptropica Worlds basically brought fans redesigned characters, new islands, customizable homes. If you had membership in the original Poptropica, it would also be carried over to Poptropica Worlds, which was super convenient. In June, Poptropica Worlds even did their first advertisement collab in-game with Cars 3. From what I could find, the fan reception to this game was positive, and most people who hated it admitted the game did grow on them as time went on. But unfortunately, as we'll get into later, it didn't last very long. And despite the hope that that generally gave fans, in 2018 started off with a bang, let's just say, when the official Poptropica Twitter randomly just unfollowed hundreds of people out of the blue. Even like, I think there was like someone who used to work on the creator blog was like hired specifically for that they also unfollowed. So it was not just fans they unfollowed, like they unfollowed so many people. There was also inflation in Poptropica, yeah. The creators began to they rotated items in and out of the shop in game, which resulted in this weird, not enough items, but also more because certain retired items did return. And then on top of that was the inflation. The prices were just more than normal. 2018 was also the year the creator blog posted the least. The least since it started in 2008. And mind you, when it started in 2008, it wasn't at the beginning of 2008. It was mid-2008. But 2018 was still a less active year, so that's really saying something. And the unfortunate part about this is for Poptropicans everywhere, it was about to get a whole lot worse. If you've ever cared about a virtual world, then you know what's about to happen. The end of Adobe Flash. It was coming. Due to preparing for the discontinuation of Flash, the majority of 2019 was spent on aesthetic changes so that they could work towards preserving the actual game. We got a new friend profile, or the in-game store had a makeover, and most exciting of all, the biggest, I guess, content we got this year was reality TV Wild Safari Island, which was the successor to the original reality TV island from back in the day. However, there was still a lot of losses this year, which is not shocking. There was drastic changes to the map, the disappearance of the photo booth, and as early as April of 2019, Poptropica Worlds was just straight up not linked to the website anymore, and in May we'd get official confirmation that Worlds was essentially dead when Poptropica added a syncing between devices feature, which was a huge perk or selling point of Worlds. So if they were still going to continue to work on Worlds, then why would they do that? On one hand, it's great to see that they were actually actively working towards keeping their game alive and accessible, knowing what was coming. On the other hand, it's also really sad considering that the spin-off was still relatively new, but a lot of work was being done behind the scenes, and either way they wouldn't have had time in 2019 to really work on that. In 2020, via the creators blog, we'd finally get some insight into how they planned to preserve the game for players with a post titled State of the Game Converting from Flash. Hey Poptropicans, it's time for some important housekeeping. As pretty much all of you know, the support of Flash is being permanently discontinued this year. However, Poptropica isn't going anywhere. The screenshot you see above isn't actually taken from the game, it's taken from HAXE JavaScript build that our developers have been working on since last year. It's a huge undertaking for a small team like Poptropica, and they've been doing an amazing job. So what's going to change on the player side? Pretty much nothing. Same art style, same islands, same Poptropica. As many of our older fans know, there were two different Flash engines that previously ran Poptropica. In technical terms, they are called AS2 and AS3. Some members of the community might know them better as old school and sound updated islands. Our main task right now is converting every AS3 island. We want to emphasize that the old school islands are still on the table, but the code that built them is so old that they would need to be remade from the ground up if we were to reinsert them into the live game. We've seen this rumor quite a bit, so we'd like to put it to bed. They will definitely not be playable when the JavaScript build launches. Believe me, I miss Astronites and Skullduggery so much, but the most important and most exciting takeaway from losing Flash is that Poptropica will remain playable for everyone for years to come. We can only thank our amazing community for making this game stand the test of time, when as we know, so many browser games from the 2000s and 2010s are disappearing. Yeah, so roughly 30 islands would be affected by this, and fans understood and appreciated the effort. At least, I mean, it's hard because I could only see an archive of this creator blog post, so I couldn't really see the live comments, but just by getting a feel for the community via the Poptropica help blog, you can tell they were a little disappointed. The disappointment carried on into 2021, which was mostly spent rebuilding their game on their new engine. Majority of the content fans got that year were either side quests or mini games, but Poptropica also held quite a few contests for islands inspired by fans, which leads me to believe that they were kind of wanting to remedy this. They knew that the situation was not ideal, and they knew that fans were disappointed, and they wanted to remedy this loss that their community had to endure by the discontinuation of Flash. And in theory, I think this is a great idea. But it doesn't get better, let me just tell you that. 2022 began with new content for fans, with an interesting approach. Roblox. They made a game on Roblox. Actually, they made 2 games. For why, I couldn't tell you, but you know what? Sure! Of course, they did finally cave for the nostalgia-driven players yearning for the classic islands, and they opted to release them through Steam, though these were like some of the newer bunch of the classic islands, 17 of them to be exact. They also launched a pre-K targeted version of Poptropica called Poptropica Jr. I could not find a lot of info on this, but it did remind me of like the Moshi, I don't even know what it's called, but it reminds me of the route Moshi Monsters took that I looked at in my Moshi Monsters video.
Are we there yet? Sing with Buster Bumblechops and learn his famous travel song.
What is the theme here? With virtual worlds turning to an even younger audience than they had. Well, I guess in this case it didn't really stick around, but interesting. Oh, and then Worlds was officially killed this year. It was. And if you didn't assume that already, now you know. Rest in peace. Now, we've reached 2023, the year Poptropica truly died. I didn't mention this, but throughout the years, costume contests had kind of become a bit of a tradition amongst the Poptropica fan base, but since May of 2021 specifically, they started to become a monthly occurrence. I assume to make sure their community knew that they cared and were working hard behind the scenes to preserve the game and like bring back more islands. However, despite holding one again in January 2023, like they did monthly, they just never announced the winners? Like at that point, why even hold one? Why? Thankfully, or sadly, I don't know, no costume contests were announced since then. Since then, meaning that it just kind of like went unaddressed? I just find it so funny. Why would you even announce it if you're not going to do one? That's not the only thing though that was left unaddressed in 2023. 2023 was the first year there were no new islands or mini quests. After February of 2023, there were also no creator blog updates. So fans, it was just radio silence. And then to top it all off, membership was just completely removed in December of that year. But I will say there's actually a reasoning for that. It seems random if you don't know the context. Basically, this rumor had started and began specifically on Twitter that Poptropica was shutting down. This all started with a screenshot that was supposedly believed to be the Poptropica team on Discord, where they made the following statement. It is after a considerable deliberation that I have decided to share this message. As many of you have noticed, some things about the game are looking different recently, such as removal of memberships and other sources of income. Due to recent layoffs, lack of revenue, and other financial barriers, Poptropica will be discontinued after December 29th of 2023. Poptropica has been a virtual home for millions of players, providing a safe and imaginative space to embark on quests, solve mysteries, and connect with friends from all around the globe. The memories created within its colorful and diverse islands are truly special, and it warms our hearts to know that Poptropica has been a source of joy and inspiration for many. Over the years, Poptropica has been more than just a game. It's been a community of explorers, a platform for creativity, and a space for learning. We've witnessed your incredible talent in creating Poptropican characters, your destiny in conquering challenging islands, and your kindness in helping fellow players along the way. As we say goodbye to Poptropica, we encourage you to take a moment to reflect on the amazing experiences you've had within this virtual world. Remember the friendships forged, the mysteries unraveled, the triumphs celebrated. Poptropica may be closing its doors, but the memories you've created will endure. We want to express our deepest thanks to our dedicated players, old and new, who have been a part of the Poptropica community. Your enthusiasm and creativity has made Poptropica a vibrant and lively world, and we are grateful for the joy you've brought to our virtual universe. With gratitude, official Poptropica. Now I know what you're probably thinking. It's Discord. How is anyone that dumb? Well, the context here is that the account had been verified by the Poptropica help blog, so that's where the credibility came from, or so everyone thought. They did address this on their blog once, you know, the news broke that this was not, in fact, Poptropica. The PHB regrets its part in lending legitimacy to the fake account, which had been given a Poptropica creator role label on our Discord server since their first appearance over a year ago at our 2022 Poppies event. Though we acknowledged then that it was only a hunch, there were reasons to believe its legitimacy. Before this incident, the account only made occasional announcements related to the game, which had been documented on the PHB. At no point before this month did Poptropica come out to say the Discord was not theirs. The real Poptropica even liked our Poppies 2022 post on Instagram where we mentioned a surprise visit from @Poptropica creators. More recently, they announced a Cyber Monday sale that turned out to be true, albeit predictable regardless. Still, the account has since revealed itself to be an imposter through some out-of-character messages. Again, the PHB apologizes for our lack of due diligence in verifying the account's status. Understandably, this rumor caused a huge uproar, even like outside of the Poptropica community. Just for people who were nostalgic for the game, seeing that it was shutting down was really sad. It was so much uproar, in fact, that the official Twitter account for Poptropica had to come out and be like, hey, we're not going anywhere. So this is awkward. We're still here. And we'll be on December 31st. But super sweet that you all love us so much that the thought of us leaving got so much attention. P.S. We made Pop free to everyone this month. This wasn't 100% true though. I mean, they were still there, but Poptropica was clearly reaching the end of the line. So even without a message, people have been kind of worried for a while now. Like the context of the year 2023 for Poptropica, just their silence up until this happened. I mean, after the fact, like after this whole rumor and it kind of started to like blow over in January of 2024, the creator's blog was then just deleted with no kind of like explanation. However, soon after, it would all start to kind of make sense when Cool Math Games would make an announcement that Poptropica was going to be hosted on their website permanently in order to preserve the game and keep it around forever. And as of 2025, that's where things are. There are no like new things for this game or updates forever. And that's why a lot of people really consider the game to be essentially dead. Naturally, doing all this research made me want to play the game, and I was gonna do a segment where I played the game, but then like it just was not the same. It's not the same on there. But either way, I think there are definitely worse ways you can go out than, you know, how Poptropica did. At least there's some form of the game and the mobile app and, you know, Steam for fans to still enjoy Poptropica. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I did this topic justice despite not being an avid player myself. I just thought it was really interesting. Let me know in the comments if you played Poptropica as a kid, and if so, what did you love about it? Big shout out as always to my patrons. I'm currently editing bonus content for you as we speak, so stay tuned for that. And I'd love to talk about more virtual worlds in 2025. This was seriously so fun to research. I love every single time I like look into something and I find out there's like a whole community in fandom and there's so much more lore. It's just so special. With that being said, happy 2025. Lazy Town will hopefully be coming by the end of this month, and the long-awaited Athena P half of the Junie B. Jones collab will be coming this month, and I will still be in it. So go give that video a rewatch to prepare yourself. But yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.